All right, so today we're going to talk about something called active observation. And really, it's all about tackling one of the biggest questions in teaching. How do you know what your students really know? Like right now, in the middle of class. It's so much more than just walking around the room. We're talking about a real strategic system for seeing learning as it happens. So, let's dive in. You know the scene, right? Every teacher does it. You're walking around the classroom while the kids are working. It's the classic move. But let's be honest. A lot of the time, it's kind of more art than science, isn't it? We just sort of drift around, we check in here and there, and we get this feeling for how it's all going. But here's the kicker. Is that feeling? Is it actually right? I mean, that's the million-dollar question, right? That kid staring out the window, are they totally lost, or are they just deep in thought? And what about the one who's writing like their life depends on it? Are they nailing the concept, or are they just practicing the same mistake over and over again? When we just rely on our gut, it's a total guessing game. We feel like we know, but we don't have the proof. And this really breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got teacher intuition. Look, it feels like knowing for sure, but the problem is it's hyper-focused on individual students, one at a time. And when you do that, you're almost guaranteed to miss the bigger pattern. But then you look at the other side, objective data. This isn't about feeling anymore. This is about actually knowing. It forces you to zoom out and look at the whole class as a system. And that's where the real patterns, the real story of what's happening start to show up. Okay, so this is where we pivot. We've got to stop just walking around and start thinking of it more like we're hunting. And I don't mean hunting for kids who are off task. I mean we're hunting for evidence. This completely reframes the whole point of moving around the room. It's not about classroom management anymore. It's about turning that movement into a serious diagnostic tool. And that tool, that solution, is what we're calling active observation. So what is active observation, really? Well, it's a protocol. It's not just something you do, it's a whole system you use. And you'll see a few keywords pop up again and again. Strategic, structured, and objective. The whole point is to take all that guesswork we were talking about and replace it with hard evidence. Every single lap you take around that classroom becomes a mission to gather data. And this right here, this is the core mindset shift. Of course, you'll still manage behavior that just kind of happens naturally, but that becomes a side effect, a secondary benefit. With active observation, the number one reason you're on your feet, the primary purpose of your movement, is to collect data about what your students are learning. Suddenly, every step you take has a very clear academic goal. Okay, so you're probably thinking, this sounds great, but how do I actually do it? Well, the beauty of active observation is that it's actually really simple. It's all built around this quick 3-step loop that you can just run again and again throughout a lesson to get this crystal clear picture of what's going on. And here they are, the 3 steps at the heart of the whole thing. It's simple. 1, plan your path. 2, look for tells. And 3, manage your tells. Okay, let's unpack what each of those actually means in practice. All right, step 1, plan your path. And yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Instead of just meandering around the room like you're browsing in a store, you decide on a route beforehand. Think of it like a security guard's patrol. The whole goal is to systematically cover the most ground to see the most student work possible. This way, you're not just getting data from the kids who sit up front or the ones who are always raising their hands. You're getting the full picture. Okay, so you're on your planned path. Now what? What are you actually looking for? You are hunting for what we call tells. Now, a tell isn't just a random mistake. Nope. It's a specific, observable pattern of struggle. It's like you're a detective, and you're not just looking for any old clue. You're looking for these specific clues that tell you the bigger story of what's going on in your classroom. And we're talking about really concrete stuff here. For instance, maybe you glance over a few shoulders and see 3, 4, 5 kids all making the exact same rounding error. Or maybe you notice this wave of hesitation when everyone gets to step 2 of the procedure. Or you're scanning their written answers and the same exact misconception pops up again and again and again. Those are your tells. And finding them, that's the gold. But as you start finding all this gold, you're going to hit a wall. It's called cognitive load. Let's be real, you can't possibly keep a running tally of every little error you see in your head. It's just too much. I love this idea that a teacher's brain is like a super powerful computer processor, but it has a terrible, terrible hard drive. Your job is to analyze and diagnose the problem, not just store all the raw data. So what do? You've got to offload that data somewhere else. You externalize it. Seriously, grab a clipboard, an iPad, or even just an extra copy of the worksheet you handed out. This becomes your pedagogical second brain. Every time you see a tell, you just make a quick note. A little tally mark next to that problem number is perfect. By doing that, you free up all that mental space to do the real work, which is figuring out, okay, why is this happening? All right, now we get to step 3. And I'm not gonna lie, this is the hardest one. It is by far the most counterintuitive part of the whole process. It's called manage your tells, and it takes a ton of self-control. Why? Because it forces you to fight against every single instinct you have as a teacher. Just think about this for a second. What if I told you that in that moment, you know the one, when you see a student making a mistake, what if the most powerful, most helpful thing you could possibly do is to do absolutely nothing? To not step in, not to correct them, but to just make your note on your clipboard and keep walking. I know. It sounds crazy. Why on earth would that be the right thing to do? Well, this table lays out the logic perfectly. It's a strategic trade-off. Look at what happens when you do an immediate correction. Your scope is tiny. You're only helping one student. Your efficiency is super low because you probably have to repeat that same correction 10 more times, and your brain is working overtime, constantly switching tasks. Now, look at the other side. By following the active observation protocol and not stopping, you get to see the whole class pattern. Your efficiency goes way up, and your cognitive load stays low because you're just focused on one thing, collecting data. When you see it like this, the choice is kinda obvious. Here's the bottom line. If 10 kids are making the exact same mistake, that's not 10 separate problems. It's one systemic problem. It's a teaching problem. And trying to fix it with 10 one-on-one conversations is a massive waste of time. It's so much more efficient to address it once with one really clear targeted reteach for the whole class. And you know what? It's also way more equitable. Because this way, everyone gets the fix, not just the handful of kids you happen to catch in the act. Okay, so you've planned your path. You've hunted for your tells and jotted them down. And the hardest part? You've resisted that powerful urge to jump in and fix things on the spot. You've got your data. So, now what? Well, now comes the payoff. This is the moment where all that disciplined work turns into incredibly powerful, super responsive teaching. And to really get why this is such a big deal, it helps to think about the work of assessment guru Dylan William. He famously said that great teaching is all about engineering classroom activities that, and this is the key part, elicit evidence of learning. Fancy words, but what it really means is your job is to design lessons that make student thinking visible. You have to find out what's really going on in their heads. And that is exactly what active observation is. It's the engine. It's the practical, boots-on-the-ground method for collecting that evidence in real time, right as it's happening. It takes this big, abstract idea of formative assessment and makes it real and doable in a chaotic, busy classroom. It's how you turn eliciting evidence from a nice idea into something you actually do every single day. So let's walk through the payoff sequence. Because you planned your path, you managed to lay eyes on, let's say, 90% of your students' work. That is a massive amount of coverage. And because you saw so much, your hunt for tells wasn't a wild goose chase. It reveals one very clear, very common error that a whole bunch of your students are making. Which then leads to the final step. Because you found that one systemic problem, you can stop the whole class and deliver one single high-impact reteach that fixes the issue for everybody, all at the same time. Boom. You just saved yourself a ton of time and made your instruction way, way more effective. That is the power of this loop. So, I'll just leave you with this one thought to chew on. Right now, by just relying on your gut feeling, what's the most important tell that you might be missing in your classroom? Because finding the answer to that, well, that could change everything. Thanks for watching.